the Tom Perez approach to Bernie Sanders is, instead of endlessly, bizarrely complaining about him not being a Democrat, is to say, hey, the most popular politician in the country caucuses with us and is willing to help. Maybe we should attempt to utilize him. Here they are in a joint appearance on Chris Hayes, noted corporate sellout Chris Hayes, who, when he's not writing books explaining the deep structural racism of this country and how policing functions in a colonial context, is a shill for mega banks. Here they are with Chris Hayes. And this first question is Hayes, and I actually do genuinely roll my eyes a little bit at this question. This is Hayes's version of saying, hey, Bernie, why don't you call yourself a Democrat? It's a great exchange, but I apologize in advance in some sense, because even this conversation for 2 minutes in some ways is a waste of all of our time on planet Earth. But Bernie had a good response, so let's check it out.
Senator, let me start with you. You know, your relationship to the Democratic Party is an interesting one. You've sort of famously been an independent. You registered as a Democrat. You ran the primary. You went back to being an
No, I didn't register. In Vermont, we don't. Chris, in Vermont, we don't have party registration.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, just the figure. No, nope. Chris, you're already wrong. Look, I'll smack the glasses off of you. Okay, go ahead.
What you do is take your ballot in the Democratic primary, which I do.
Right. So I guess my question to you is, you've been talking, you're on this road trip now with the head of the DNC. You're talking about reforming, reviving, transforming the Democratic Party. Do you consider yourself a Democrat?
No, I'm an independent, and I think if the Democratic Party is going to succeed, and I want to see it succeed, it's going to have to open its doors to independents who are there are probably more independents in this country than either Democrats or Republicans. And it's going to have to open its doors to working people and to young people and create a grassroots party. That's what we need. And what the party has got to focus on are the most important issues facing working people. That's the decline of the middle class. That's the need to take on the billionaire class and Wall Street and the insurance companies and bring people together, A, against Trump's absolutely reactionary agenda, and B, fight for a progressive agenda, which among other things includes a Medicare for all single-payer program.
Okay, that's exactly right. And there's Bernie laying it out really well. I will elaborate on that in a second, but I want to get to the follow-up sound, where Bernie basically also lays out how, yes, this is a politics of conflict right now. There is profound class division in America, along with every other division, that shapes our politics, and we need to be clear about how this resource disparity affects all of us. Unfortunately, later we'll play a clip of Perez doing well. Perez really waffles and is whack in this response.
And what the American people understand, that we can't bring about the changes that we want. Health care for all, making public colleges and universities tuition free, transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel, unless we have the guts to point the finger at the ruling class of this country,
right,
the billionaire class, and Wall Street, and say, you know what? Your greed is destroying this country. And you know what? We're going to take you on. And I think when you make that statement, a lot of people start nodding their heads and they say, yeah, that's what we got to do.
This is what's key to me. And Tom, I want to hear you talk about this, because when Bernie, Senator, when you talk about this, there's a bad guy there. There's a villain in the story. There are people that are doing wrong by the American people. Donald Trump has a story where he's got villains as well, and they're different folks. Sometimes they're corporations, mostly they're immigrants and other people. Do you see the world that way, Tom? Is that the Democratic message? Do you think it's important, as the senator sitting next to you just said, to say the ruling class, his words, of this country, are basically screwing average folks?
Well, listen, you know, when we put hope on the ballot, Chris, we win. When we allow our opponents to put fear on the ballot, we don't do so well. I believe that an economy has to work for everyone to be...
Hillary Clinton, no, this is my point. Hillary Clinton ran on hope. She ran on hope. It was a very hopeful message. And the point is, do you have to name the enemy? That's my question. Do you have to say, these are the people that are screwing you?
Well, listen, I think you're creating a false choice, Chris. What we have to do as Democrats is to articulate very clearly that Donald Trump's vision for America is a vision for the top 1% of the 1%. It's a vision that's divisive. When he talks about the Make It in America executive order, you know, if you turn over the sheet on that executive order, it probably says made in China. You got, you know, 50 pallets or so of Ivanka's stuff that's come into the United States from China and Singapore since roughly the first of the year. So part of what we have to do is expose the fraud of Donald Trump.
I don't think so.
Let me just do that again.
I don't think so.
Okay, 3 really quick points here. Number 1, I
narrowed it down to 3.
Yeah, no, we can do. I'll do the first 3, and then we'll have a free for all in this. Number 1, and this is a very neoliberal defense of Bernie here, but no one ever objects to like a McKinsey consultant going into a corporation and helping them, you know, supposedly perform better, because no one says to the McKinsey consultant, "You're not an employee of Coke. You're a consultant. How dare you do this?" Bernie's basically an independent consultant who's trying to save one of the most toxic.
Looking at Deloitte now?
Yeah, I'm at Deloitte. Democrats are a total failed brand. It's pathetic. It's sad. I'm coming in as an independent consultant because I want them to do better. Number 2, he's completely right. More Americans are, I believe, registered as independent overall than Republican or Democrat. At the very least, that number is spiking. As again, no normal person cares. And number 3, not only Perez is vaguely right, and Bernie actually does have a hopeful message. Bernie is saying if we stop completely misallocating resources and we stop designing our economy so that a fraction of people rip off and rob our resources blind, we can have a much more functional, healthy, and progressive society. That's actually quite hopeful and realistic and real. So there actually isn't a contradiction. Perez is demonstrating, though, in real time why a hope message, number 1, policy and substance-wise, it's not sufficient and necessary for our times. But number 2, the only people who get to sell a message like that are really charismatic. You need to be Bill Clinton or Barack Obama to come out and campaign on evoking a feeling state in your listeners. That ain't Hillary Clinton. That ain't Tom Perez. So the reality is that you need the Bernie message. You can add hope, but a pure hope message is both wrong on the merits and only can be delivered by extraordinarily charismatic people, of which there are no Democrats right now that exist with that level of charisma. Sorry, Cory Booker. Okay, I open the floor to more comments on that mini debacle.
So I just want to shill for Hayes a little bit. I think that interview...
Yeah, you fucking would.
I think that interview does, even though it's frustrating and even where Hayes is coming from, but definitely where Perez is obviously coming from, and it's pretty clear the type of people he's trying to keep happy with that waffling.
Yes.
I think that interview does good work. I want more of that. Hayes sitting down with Bernie right there, and Perez having to know Bernie's sitting right next to him and say this stuff. Like that thing about Bernie saying, "I won't say I'm with her because it's phony."
Right.
He's right.
Yeah.
And these guys know Bernie knows that stuff. So like they're not going to, Perez is not going to ever probably be like the person we're going to play in the clip.
And you know, it's just so important. I remember during the campaign, I was in a debate with somebody. I don't even remember where, but someone was like, Bernie only talks about one thing, which wasn't exactly true because he was making a structural critique. But I remember I was like, does Hillary talk about anything? Like other than just the feeling of with her? Yeah, that's not a thing. That's an emotional state, which you got to be Barack Obama to pull that off, or Bill Clinton.
I think it's a risk that Bernie, I think, 1, he's thought about it, and 2, I agree that it's one that he should risk.
He's also got to protect his own political brands. Like, I mean, how much can he do for these people? All they've done is like not listen to him, try to undermine him and disrespect him, and he's still at the end of the day trying to help them because he actually does have a broader purpose. But his political brand and his base is built from the very beginning on I am an independent socialist. That's how he was elected mayor of Burlington. That's how he got into the House. That's how he got into the Senate. And that actually means something to people in Vermont. That actually is his home. But I do just really quickly. Let's just look really quickly at one thing and then we can get back to this. But I just want to do really quickly what Tom Perez is getting right from Bernie. Tom Perez, not a great speaker, but he's picking up I I don't even know if this is from Bernie, but he's finding it. This is Tom Perez's core strike zone right here, and it seems like it's kind of an elusive obvious, but it works for the guy. It really makes his speeches more interesting. Here he is. He's at this Unity tour. He's in Newark, New Jersey, working at a working families event, and he's talking about the Republicans' approach to health care, and he might have actually come up with the perfect summation of their health care plans.
Everybody's their program. I don't care. Yeah. I don't give a shit about people.
There you go.
More swearing.
More swearing, Tom. It fits well on you.
Seeing this clip made me feel like Roger Ailes in the 70s or something like that, saying like, Perez, we know what your problem is. The answer is obviously you need to start swearing.
I'm glad that you got where you're there quickly. You do not want to feel like Roger Ailes in the 70s or any time. Imagine it would be really uncomfortable.
I think I have a nerdy idea of what Roger Ailes was like in the 70s based on Gabriel Sherman books.
Right, exactly. Really, Gabriel Sherman was not really actually writing about what Roger Ailes was actually up to. But that's great, actually. Like, he says, all right, what do they call it? Don't care. Great. They don't give a shit. Which, like, incidentally, is true. That actually is the essential truth of the Republicans' plan.
They don't care if you get sick and die or go into debt. They don't
care. And it's interesting because it's well calibrated because, Grayson did that thing years ago where he kind of like some people are just not going to respond to here's the Republican plan, get sick and die. I liked it. I think it's true. But this perfect, and in a certain way it's more accurate because even the worst, most sociopathic Republican, it's not like they're not necessarily up at night thinking of like, oh, I can't wait till these people get sick and die. It's just more like, hey man, you didn't inherit money. Tough luck.
Yeah, it's like their plan for climate change. Their plan for climate change is just let climate change happen while they make money.
Yeah, exactly, because they don't give a shit.
Hey folks, Sam Seder here. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses. And one way he can is by you subscribing to this channel. I don't know how that works.